Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching or listening to us from. Welcome back to the Naija FC Podcast. As always, I'm your host, AyoT, and I have my reliable co-host with me.
Smith Layi, thanks for joining again.
Yes, Smith Layi, thank you for being here and talking to me. I always enjoy talking football with you.
Yeah.
Happy New Year to all our listeners. Happy New Year. We thank you for rocking with us throughout 2023. We had this idea to start and launch this podcast sometime last year, in the later half of the year. And, we said it to everybody on social media that please, you people have to support us. You people have to watch the videos. You have to listen. You have to download the podcast, And honestly, the reception has been overwhelming, has been amazing, fantastic. People from so many different countries have been watching, have been commenting, engaging with us. You guys have been sharing. It's actually been really fantastic. And I just want to say thank you to everyone for your support in 2023. And we promise that 2024 would be even more exciting, more engaging for the Naija FC podcast. We're going to, bring the episodes to you more often than we did last year. You can see we're already recording first one of the year now. And we're going to have some special guests as we go along. We're going to try to bring different ideas, different opinions, to you, so that it's not just Smith Layi and I every single time. And of course, if there's any other thing that you would like to see on the podcast, feel free to leave a comment, make suggestions, anything that you want us to talk about, leave it in the comments. If you look at the previous ones, I always check the comments. I always engage with you guys. So just let us know what you think. Smith Layi, what do you have to say to the people?
No, I can't just appreciate them enough. Fantastic people, good people. Since the start of the podcast, a lot of people have been, even when we went on break, on unauthorized absence, you guys stayed with us. You guys believed in us. So thank you very much. From Ghana to South Africa to USA to Canada to Japan to Russia to Ukraine to every corner of the world. I say thank you. Don't. I promise you that 2024 will even be better.
Amazing. Thank you very much, guys. Okay, so let's talk about the focus for today. We want to break down, preview the group that Nigeria is in. Talking about Group A of AFCON 2023 that is coming up now. I think the tournament starts in 11 days. So we want to talk about Group A. Of course, our group contains the host nation, Ivory Coast, Guinea-Bissau, as well as Equatorial Guinea. So Smith Layi and I will give you our thoughts, our insights on, each team in the group. And then, of course, we'll give you guys our predictions of what we think is going to happen. We like our predictions on this show. So, of course, leave your own predictions as well in the comments. Okay, so Smith Layi, I think I'll let you go first on this one. Ivory Coast, host nation, two-time champions. They won it most recently in 2015. What do you think about them going into this AFCON?
The mood in the country is that they want to host and win. And hosting can go in two ways. You can host and crash at in the group stage. You can also host and go all the way. So, for example, now South Africa in '96 hosted and they won. Nigeria in '80 hosted and Nigeria won. Tunisia in 2004 they hosted and they actually won. So is the mood is just for them to actually want to host and to actually want to win. But what I just know about Ivory Coast is that there's going to be a lot of pressure from the home fans for them to actually deliver. So it's be good for them to actually to get going very early in the tournament by winning their opening game. The first time that Ivory Coast hosted was in '84. They performed woefully. In fact, they got knocked out in the group stage. And in that same year, Nigeria were playing the final. And Nigeria actually lost to Cameroon in 1984. So, I think that they'll be coming to win. But, it's time we actually will tell. I don't see that. Well, when it goes to prediction, I will give my thought. But the pressure is going to be on them to win. But, I know we should talk about them more. So I will reserve my comment for now.
Yeah. And, like you said, host nation, the pressure is going to be on them to win. But one thing that we've seen from different football competitions at various levels, whether it be World Cup, whether it be Euros, whether it be AFCON. Host nation does not mean that you're going to win or you're even going to go far. We've seen
Yes.
many host nations that just go and fumble and don't even do anything. Sometimes the pressure can be too much, even though, yes, of course, in every game that you play, you're going to have the advantage of the fans behind you. But, you know, at the end of the day, fans not be the ones where they play the ball. So if you don't come with your A game, then you can easily lose. Just to talk about how they even got here. Of course, as the host nation, they qualified automatically for the tournament. But I think something that I found interesting was that CAF still puts them into a group, you know, for the qualifying phase, maybe to keep them active, to keep them, should I say, busy, and also to help to determine the standings for the other teams and see who qualifies. In their qualifying group, they finished second, and they lost one match. The only match that they lost in qualifying was against Zambia. It was a 3-0 defeat against Zambia. So for those of you that are watching or listening, you know, take out of that what you wish. If they lose 3-0 to Zambia, then does that mean that they are not strong? Who knows? But of course, in their last 5 matches, they are unbeaten. 3 wins and 2 draws in their last 5 games. So they are coming into the tournament with a little bit of form. I know that they have at least one friendly, I believe, against Sierra Leone that they are playing before the tournament starts. I don't know if they have other friendlies lined up.
They secured Sierra Leone friendly,
Yeah. So it's going to be a fantastic one. I'm curious to see how they are going to be able to live up to the expectation. Of course, the Ivorian squad is not a bad squad, you know, by any means. They have some very good players. Sebastian Haller probably going to be their star man. If they are going to win this tournament, if they are going to go far, he's going to have to score, you know, some goals for them. They have Simon Adingra, you know, the guy who plays for Brighton, former teammate of Victor Boniface at Union Saint-Gilloise. You know, they have Max Gradel. You know, they have Nicolas Pepe, former Arsenal player, now in Trabzonspor playing with Onuachu. You know, they have Jeremy Boga, teammate of Terry Murphy at OGC Nice. You know, and then in midfield, they have Frank Kessie, you know, now in Al Ahly, but formerly of AC Milan.
Barcelona.
And Barcelona as well, yes. And I think somebody that is relatively low-key to the average fan, but has been a key player for them in recent times is Ibrahim Sangare. You know, he's come up big for them in their qualifying matches, quote unquote, even though they already qualified, you know, scoring a number of goals. Sangare, of course, plays for Nottingham Forest alongside Olaino and Taiwo Awoni. And they have other good players, Fofana, you know, Miliboli in defense.
Yeah.
Sorry?
There's I just want to highlight that midfield.
Yes.
You know, I think the midfield
go on.
is going to be about about this guy Sekou Fofana. He was the former captain of Lens when they finished second in the French league. So he has already moved to Saudi Arabia. Fantastic player. He dominates. Yes, for the box. You know, he dominates the midfield. He's so strong. You know, that is why I was thinking that Alassane Yusuf against this beautiful player like this, how will it be like? It's going to be a mismatch. So Fofana is very dominating. He score free kick. You know, 3 of them can score goals. Sangare was playing for PSV before he got transferred to Nottingham Forest. You know, he was doing well, you know, in the Champions League. Fantastic player. So I think that that midfield and the defense is where their strength really lies.
The midfield and the defense. So okay, out of all the players that we've spoken about now in their team, who do you think, you know, maybe the 2 key players? You said Fofana in midfield. Who else do you think is going to be a key player if Ivory Coast are supposed to maybe win this group or win the tournament?
It's Bamba. He's very underrated. It's Bamba. You know, Bamba. You know,
Jonathan Bamba.
Bamba, yes. It's Bamba. He's a very tricky player. They get him around the wings, and you know, one thing is that they actually will supply crosses. You know, the key to scoring goals for this team is about the crosses that comes from Adingra and the other winger. Probably could be Boga or Bamba. You know that if you know it, Bamba was part of the former teammate of the former African Player of the Year, was of the current African Player of the Year, Victor Osimhen. So he's Bamba is very underrated, but he's a player that can actually make the difference. A lot of people will think about Ale, but Adingra and going forward, I know that their wings is going to be very key. And don't forget that if the coach try to play a 3-5-2 formation, it might be Segi Ore, their captain, coming from the right wing back to get to go and supply the crosses for for Sebastian Haller. So, it's going to be a very, very good, a very, very solid team. And I want to highlight one player that plays for Roma. It's called Ndika. He plays for Roma. It's called Ndika. Fantastic defender. I remember that, Samuel Eto'o once went to go and convince him to play for Cameroon, but he rejected the Cameroon and went for Ivory Coast. So he's a very good player. I think he's been tipped to even go to Tottenham of recent now. So very, very solid player. So, and the other player too, Diamonde, that play for Sporting Lisbon, is also linked to Newcastle. So they have players that in that defense that are very solid players. So, there's going to be a lot of things. And with the body of Nottingham Forest too. So it's also, and they still have Bailey of Villarreal. So there's a lot of things that actually what goes well for them. So I think that there's going to be a team to watch.
No, yeah, for sure. And I would say that's one thing that when you look at the Ivorian defense, like you rightly mentioned, they have quality players that maybe the average person might not be aware of, but thank you, Smith Layi, for doing your homework. But there are players that are doing really well. Like you mentioned Evan Ndika. He's actually been very solid for AS Roma in, the Serie A this season. I think he's played like 15 matches for them in the league.
Yes.
Very solid defender. And then of course they have Singo of AS Monaco. They have Sergio Aurier, like you mentioned, of Nottingham Forest. They have Kosonu, who is also a teammate of Boniface Abaya, Leverkusen. They have Willy Bolly also of Nottingham Forest. So
I think they are Monday of Sporting Lisbon.
Yeah, they are Monday of Sporting Lisbon. So it's quite a solid defense. I mean, not to talk about Nigeria, but especially when you compare to our own defense that we are trying to mix and match and figure out who is going to play. They're not going to be an easy defense to break down. But of course, we want to believe that Nigeria, we have quality. And speaking of that quality, let's just transition to the Super Eagles now. Talk about Nigeria.
Before you go to Super Eagles, I remember there was this funny story about Ivory Coast in Nigeria, Ghana 2000. So when they sent them off to Nigeria to go and play in the AFCON competitions in 2000, the team did not perform well. So the head of state then promised to beat them up. That was what happened back then. So, it's a country that with high expectations. So I know that there's going to be a lot of pressure on them to actually do well. So I just hope that they can handle this.
Okay, let's see. Okay, so now let's transition to Nigeria, the Super Eagles, 3-time champions. Finished top of our qualifying group. We only lost one game in our qualifying group, but something that we have to note is that the one game that we lost was against Guinea-Bissau, who also happened to be in our group this AFCON, and were in our group last AFCON as well. I don't know why those ones are chasing us, why they are following us about.
Argentina.
Yeah, exactly. They want to become our African Argentina. But for whatever reason, we've been matched up against Guinea-Bissau multiple times, and we're playing them again in this AFCON. In our last 5 matches, we've won 2 games, we've drawn 3. Honestly, unimpressive. The last 2, especially the World Cup qualifiers, 2 matches that, frankly, everybody believed that Nigeria should go and win. But unfortunately, we drew them. How do you think the fans, the Nigerian fans, before we deep dive into it, how do you think the Nigerian fans, because most of our audience are Nigerians, we have to admit, even though we appreciate you guys from other African countries, but how do you think the Nigerian fans will be feeling now, going into this group? We've already spoken about Ivory Coast and the quality they have, the kinds of players they have. They have many players that are playing for top teams, playing for the same team as well. How do you think Nigerian fans will be feeling going up against an Ivory Coast?
So let me just tell you something, as Nigeria a very optimistic country, countries that, let me tell you something. If they paired Nigeria in the same group with Argentina, Brazil, and England, if you ask an average Nigerian, say, we will top the group. To tell you how optimistic a Nigeria fan can actually be. But one thing that we have to actually take note, basically, is this. As a Nigerian fan, you think that we're going to actually win. But, looking at playing against the host nation with that type of solid backline and overall team, strength, you would think that, it might be difficult. But as a Nigerian, you still feel that, we're going to win. Don't see, if you check the website of CAF, Nigerian ticket is selling. So that means that Nigerian people actually were optimistic ahead of this AFCON.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, amazing one. Hopefully, we're able to impress. Okay, let's talk about the players on the Nigerian national team. Of course, we mentioned the Ivorian team and they have so many good players. But with all due respect to Nigeria as well, we do have some quality in our side. Standout player has to be Victor Osimhen, the reigning Africa Player of the Year, playing for Napoli, even though he has been enjoying himself a little bit too much in Lagos this Christmas. But hopefully that's just, maybe he's training in the day and at night he's going to enjoy himself. So let's not talk about it too much. But of course, Osimhen is supposed to be the talisman for Nigeria. If we are supposed to go far, if we're supposed to win this tournament, we're going to expect Osimhen to score a number of goals. I will be very surprised if Nigeria can go far and Osimhen doesn't score many goals. It will be surprising to me, honestly. We also have other players like Victor Boniface, of course, lighting it up for Bayer Leverkusen in Germany. One of his teammates or two of his teammates also are in this Ivorian team. We have Moses Simon, who was one of our best players, if not the best player for the Super Eagles at AFCON in 2021. We saw the work that he did running down that left flank when, Coach Guardiola gave him the freedom to be able to operate and play his natural game. So I think Simon will also be an important player for us. Wilfred Ndidi, even though there are some rumors that he might not be fully fit, I hope he is, because I think Ndidi is going to be and is supposed to be one of the key players for us. When Ndidi is not in the midfield for us, we are always considerably weaker, and our team always seems to not have the same rigidity and the same balance when Ndidi is not in the squad. Especially the fact that he has been in good form for Leicester City this season. It would be very sad if right before the AFCON, he picked up some kind of knock and he's not able to play for us. And then I think another key player for us would be Alex Iwobi. Iwobi is one guy that, even though he might not be the best player in the world, two things that I love about him. One, that he's going to give everything. Iwobi is going to play his heart out. He's going to run for 90 minutes. He has a very good engine. He's going to try his hardest. And two, Iwobi does have a knack for coming through for the Super Eagles. When he plays for the Super Eagles, he does that inkling in him to be able to turn up, to score important goals or to provide good passes or to just put in quality performances when we need him to put in quality performances. I know as I'm talking now, some people will be remembering that is Iwobi that got red card in the last AFCON against Tunisia. Yes, it's that same Iwobi. But other than that, if you look at most of the matches, Iwobi has been a key player for us and has been coming through for us. I know the sad part for me is that I didn't really mention any key player in defense or in goal. But of course, if we're going to do well in the tournament, some of our defenders are going to have to step up. They have no choice. They're going to have to step up. And I think for me, that is where I'm looking at somebody like a Calvin Bassey to say, okay, Calvin, we see you, we see what you did at Rangers, the other year. We see what you are doing at Fulham this season, but can you do it for the Super Eagles of Nigeria? And Smindai, I think that's where I'll transition to you and get your thoughts. What do you think? Do you think Calvin Bassey can be a solid defensive option and prove himself for the Super Eagles at this AFCON?
No, Calvin Bassey, is slightly getting the progress in what's it called, in Fulham, and I'm happy for him because at the start, he was making mistakes because he was playing the right side of the fence. Despite his best position was meant to be the left side of the fence, but now you can see clearly progress. But what I can still say is that Calvin Bassey is still raw, and he needs a leader in that team. So that is what I can say about Calvin Bassey, because I think that if he gets like someone ready, a camera head beside him that can actually control him, tell him, sometimes you can. Last game I saw against Arsenal, Calvin Bassey came midfield, was using leg over for Arsenal. That was, it was using step over. I was wondering that. So I think he needs a leader in that point. Guys, tell him that, oh, guys, don't go too far. Don't go too far. So I think it's someone that has energy to bomb. Calvin Bassey reminds me of Taribo West. When Taribo West was so young, this is actually how he was, and he became one of the best defenders in the world in the 90s. So I think that if Calvin Bassey will perform well for Nigeria, this is going to be a good audition for him. I think Calvin Bassey can actually passed the audition well, but he will need the support of his right-sided central defender.
Okay. And who else do you expect to be a quality key player for Nigeria? Who are you looking at that, you have to step up and show yourself at this AFCON?
For me, it's Ademola Lookman. Ademola Lookman.
Okay.
Ademola Lookman is he needs to now come to the party. He needs to stand up and be counted because I can tell you that he's a guy. He's like one of the most talented players we have in our team. Although the coach doesn't know the best how to use him, but I can tell you that Lookman is a killer. In fact, if Osimhen will do well in this AFCON, it's not going to be Chukwueze, it's going to be Lookman. He needs to actually step up. I think that Lookman will be the joker. That is moving forward, it's going to be Lookman. I can tell you. I can tell you because he's a guy that is very flexible compared to all our players. He's very flexible, and it can actually do damage. I think that Lookman will be the man if we have to actually do well in this AFCON. Lookman will be very key to our performance. I think so. Not
very
of the year.
I like that nod. Ademola Lookman. The only question that I'll ask you with regards to that is, do you think he's going to start? For him to be a key player, do you think he's going to start ahead of, Moses Simon?
So for me, I don't think Simon and Lookman play the same position. But it's just on paper because maybe he can dribble. That's why, sometimes coaches still do their method in a very archaic way. When they see a player and he can play, he can run a bit, he can dribble, they put him on the wings. No, Lookman is not a winger. I hope that Pastor can hear this. Ademola Lookman is not a winger. He's a supporting striker. Or you can give him the free role to actually thrive. That is where Lookman actually thrives. If you isolate Lookman, you put him on the left, you are just limiting his potential. Simon and Lookman can play together. The only person that can drop out is Victor Boniface. If you want to do well, you can put Boniface on the bench, and it's going to be, apologies if he's listening, it's going to be Lookman and what's it called, and Osimhen. Honest with you, because I don't think Boniface and Osimhen will complement each other. I don't think so. I think it's going to be Lookman and Victor Osimhen. So I don't think he's in direct competition with Simon. Simon is in the world of his own. He doesn't have any competition there, except you just want to bring a competitor with him. No. Because for me, the other way
Simon has Ahmed Musa.
No. He's not. That one, he's a player coach. So,
okay.
Yes.
Very interesting one. And then finally on Nigeria, to round up, goalkeepers. I think we have to admit, even if we don't say it, I'm sure other African countries, they all know it. That's where we have our biggest question mark. What can we expect from the Nigerian goalkeepers? Do you even know what we can expect from the Nigerian goalkeepers at this AFCON?
I think Francis will start. But the issue basically is this. If you went to Morovia, you had 3 goalkeepers in camp. You don't have the confidence to play Olorunleke Ojo. You play Adebayo Adeleye instead. And when it's now time for you to select your final list, you now pick Leke Ojo ahead of Adebayo. No, it's not done. It's not done. Because you can't just say that you have to pick players that are ready. Not as if players that say, don't let them play shot to Foramo. No, we have to pick players that are very ready. For example, now, Uzoa is struggling. Do we know what Leke will bring? Somebody said that now Uzoa will see. Wait till Leke Ojo man the post. That's when you know that khaki is not leather. So, and for Valentine, for Stanley Wabali, that actually in South Africa, I don't know. You've not watched, he's not like played for Nigeria before. Like, he's only played for the home base Eagles or so. 100%. So, it's going to be interesting to see who we start. I think Uzoa will start. Maybe probably Uzoa make a mistake. Wabali will help him to continue to complete the AFCON. That is it.
Interesting thoughts. I think the one thing that I can easily agree with is that Ezoho is going to be the number 1 goalkeeper. And hopefully he doesn't make any mistakes. Maybe we
Mm-hmm.
see a Stanley Nwabali in the third match. Hopefully we've won our first 2 games, and they say, okay, Nwabali, come and play the third game, just so that at least we could not say you play for AFCON, or
Mm-hmm.
something. But yes, that's where the biggest question marks are. That's the part that I think puts the most fear of God in my heart, because
Mm-hmm.
we all know this, that we've seen it in recent friendlies that we've played. The opponents doesn't even have to do anything fantastic. Our goalkeeper just help them get one goal.
Mm-hmm.
And if we concede a silly goal in any important match or in any tough match, it might not be so easy for us to get a goal of our own, especially against a team like Ivory Coast.
Yes.
They are going to scout us, before this tournament. They are going to tell their players that, see, make this goalkeeper work, because
Mm-hmm.
this goalkeeper has an error in him. So make him work.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
really hope that our own goalkeeper as well too is doing everything that he can to stay concentrated and to eradicate any errors from his game.
Probably.
I mean, he played a match, this new year. He's already played 1 game, made 4 saves in the game. And then I know he's going to head to camp immediately after that. But hopefully he can
Yeah.
carry that confidence. I have to thank his club, honestly. I have to thank his club. They gave him about 4 matches to warm up, to get himself ready for the AFCON. So hopefully he can carry that confidence, into the national team, play some of our preparatory friendlies as well. And then when the main tournament comes, he can be at least at a good level. Even if he's at the 2018 World Cup level, I don't even think that'll be bad, because that 2018 World Cup, it wasn't making, it wasn't dashing anybody goals. So
Mm-hmm.
even if he can play at that level when he was 4 years younger, imagine now we're telling you to go back to the level where you're 4 years younger, where you're supposed to have improved. But that's where we're at right now. So hopefully things can go well. Okay. Any final thoughts on Nigeria before I move on
I
to
just have a few things
next
to
one?
say.
Okay.
I watched a show called Soccer Africa, and one man was saying that why can't we just allow Francis to be the first choice against Africa in June during the World Cup qualifier? So he was trying to slag Ida Peter that your goalkeeper is not good. He said, "Come on, Francis is good. Leave him there." It tells you that other Africans too, they can see that we have issues with this goalkeeping. So, and I want to make this thing too. Nigeria doesn't have like 2 bad AFCONs against consecutively, because when we performed poorly in Libya 82, we came back to the finals in 84. When we didn't qualify in 86, we came back to the finals in 88. When we were suspended in 96 and 98, we came back in the in the finals in 2000.
Yeah.
So when we didn't do well in Ghana 08, we were in the semi-finals in Angola in 2010. So this time around too, we didn't, when we did qualify in 2012, we won in 2013. So when we did qualify in 15 and 17, we came back in this thing
Bronze,
actually what in the
2019.
3rd place. So we didn't do well in Cameroon. Maybe this time around it's going to be semi-finals or finals.
I
again.
like that. I like that.
Yes.
Hopefully we can actually carry on and do well. Okay.
Mhm.
Let's move on now to Guinea-Bissau. The third team in our group. Like I mentioned earlier, they've become this team that want to now be following us everywhere that we're going in Africa. Guinea-Bissau, of course, they made their AFCON debut in 2017, so they are relative newbies in the Africa Cup of Nations. But I think the impressive part of it is that since they made their first appearance in 2017, they've qualified for every AFCON since then, 2019, 2021, and now going to their 4th AFCON in 2023. Of course, they were in a group at AFCON 2021 in Cameroon. We beat them 2-0. I remember that game very well. Moses Simon had a fantastic game in that match as well. And in their qualifying phase, for this tournament, they finished second in our group as well. Their only defeat was against us. So against the other teams, they had quite a good showing. Their best finish at an AFCON is still group stage finish. They've never got out of the group. But do you think that this could be a year that Guinea-Bissau make it out of the AFCON group?
Yes, I think their best bet is to finish 3rd in this group because I watched them in the World Cup qualifier. I still think that they don't have the firepower to actually push through all these bigger big teams, because I looked at them very well. I just realized that sometimes they don't know how to handle pressure. So they have a fantastic player up front, Mama Balde. He plays
About it.
for Mama Balde. He plays for Olympique Lyonnais in France now, and a lot of Nigerians we know exactly the type of damage that what it can actually what cause. And they also have this young goalkeeper. The funniest thing is that the goalkeeper was in the Portuguese team, but he changed nationality because he wanted to respect his father and actually play for Guinea-Bissau. So I think they're a team that they are more of a unit in that particular group than for them to depend on what's it called, one outstanding player. So their main attacking outlet is that they normally like to soak pressure and like launch counter attacks. So and I just hope that Ivory Coast and Nigeria can actually be watchful of that. But if they're going to get out of this group, it's that they draw a game between either they draw Nigeria or they draw Ivory Coast. But if they're going to win, they're going to beat Equatorial Guinea or Guinea Equatoria. So they call them the wild dogs of Guinea-Bissau.
Dogs,
so dogs can bite. So other countries there should be aware of the Guinea-Bissau.
So you don't think, even though they beat us 1-0 in the qualifying round, you don't think that when it comes to the tournament proper, they cannot beat Nigeria?
They will take 3-0.
Okay, I like that. Another player that I'll just highlight in the Guinea-Bissau team is Zinho Gano. He plays for Zolta Waregem in Belgium, in the second division in Belgium. But I think he's been doing pretty well this season. I think in about 12 games in the league, he has scored 8 goals, for his side. So he's going to be another outlet that they are going to be looking towards, for their provision of goals. I think with him and Mabalde in the side, Guinea-Bissau would feel like they have a chance against any team. Like you rightly said, I think at least against Nigeria and against Guinea-Bissau, other than against Ivory Coast, I would expect them to sit back, to try to be a solid unit, defend well, and then launch counter-attacks whenever they get the chance. And hopefully, it can pay dividends for them against Ivory Coast, but not against Nigeria. I'll say in their last 5 matches, they've won 3, they've lost 1, they've drawn 1. Their 1-L came against Guinea in a friendly. But yeah, like I mentioned earlier, they also beat Nigeria 1-0 in Abuja in March of this year. So they are going to have some confidence playing against the top sides, believing that they can get a quality result. And maybe this is the first time that they will be able to leave their group, maybe as one of the best third place teams. Who knows? Let us see what happens. Any final thoughts on Guinea-Bissau?
No. I think that their best outlet is to get out of that group is just for them to be taught. But the funny thing is that opening game is always up for the grabs. They can draw Ivory Coast in the opening game. So if that one will put pressure on Ivory Coast in the game against Nigeria. Because so that means that I just think that the coach is a very good coach. He's been with them for a while. So fantastic man, the gentleman to the core. He knows his onions very well. The guys, most of them plays, they are Portuguese, they play. So they know themselves very well. They've been together for so long. I think that they can be the wild dog in this tournament.
That would be good. Okay. Let's move on to the 4th and final team in Group A. I'm talking about Equatorial Guinea. Equatorial Guinea, relatively small side compared to the other teams in the group. They are ranked 88th in the world. In Africa, they are ranked 18th, according to the FIFA rankings. I think this is their 4th AFCON appearance. I might be wrong about that. So but I think this is their 4th AFCON appearance. And their best finish, it was 4th place. They finished 4th in 2015. So even though they are a relatively smaller nation, they've done better than Guinea-Bissau in overall AFCON performance. One thing that is of note is that they've had the same manager since 2010, for their side. So he knows the team. He has built the team. It's all about his culture, his own ideas. They know what to expect from him, and they know, rather he knows the kind of players that he wants and, who's going to give him what he needs. The impressive part of of Equatorial Guinea's last year and qualifying for this AFCON is that they went unbeaten throughout 2023. So
Yeah.
we have to give them credit for that. They literally have not lost a game in the past year. And obviously for a team that is, ranked so low, you would expect them to have lost a couple games. In their last 5 matches, they've won 3, they've drawn 1, and they've kept 3 clean sheets in a row. So their coach is clearly making them to be at least, some sort of solid unit at the back. One thing that we know about football is that if you don't concede goals, you're not going to lose. Put it into context, it's not like they've been playing against the biggest teams in Africa, but we also have to give them credit because they beat Tunisia, in their qualifying group. They beat Tunisia 1-0, and I'm sure Nigerian fans remember that Tunisia will knock us out for 2021 AFCON. So they are not a terrible side. They don't score that many goals. Most of the matches that they win now 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. When they draw 1-1 or 0-0. So they don't score that many goals. They try to defend. They know that they don't have as much talent, as much quality as the other sides. But they are well coached, they are well drilled, and they do a good job. Do you think, Equatorial Guinea stand a chance at all of coming out of this group? Can they shock somebody in this group?
Yes. They're giant killers. I won't lie to you. I remember what they did to Algeria in the last AFCON. So they ran Algeria ragged. And they decided what beat Algeria. So, there's this team that if they know their role, they know what to do. They are well drilled. They will always cause the so-called bigger African nations. So, I would have been more confident that Equatorial Guinea will beat Ivory Coast more than their chance against Nigeria. But they can qualify from this group, and I can tell you that. But it's going to be disaster if thunder strikes, on the Super Eagles, because they call them the national thunders, of Guinea-Equatoria. So if this thunder strikes on Super Eagles in the first game, that would be terrible, because maybe Pasero will lose his job from that first day. We don't know. But like you said, their team, they have experience up front. Don't forget that there are also teams that normally, nationalized players, from different countries too. So they're like mixed nationality. They are the France of Africa. So they know all those, how to pick talents from like different places. I think there's also a Nigerian too in their fold now that will play in that AFCON in Ivory Coast. So they are also, these teams are very, very hard. And I'm scared that we are playing them in the first game. Because they will have prepared, for us. I hope that the wise scouts for Pasero will work this time around, because so that we know that we know what we're actually up to. But I think that if there's going to be any upsets for Equatorial Guinea, it's going to be against Nigeria.
And I'll just mention, one player that we just have to be aware of for Equatorial Guinea is Emilio Insue.
Yes.
Because when they do win, when they do score goals, he tends to always be on the score sheet. He's their top 9.
What about Babu?
Balboa, the midfielder.
Yeah.
Also,
energetic player. Yeah.
Energetic player, plays for Huesca in Spain.
Yeah.
Tries to run the midfield for them. But I think for me, Insue, the goal threat for them, I think, is the most important player in their team. Hopefully he can turn up for them. Maybe they can provide a shock. Who knows? Like you rightly said, they did defeat Algeria at the last AFCON. And maybe they can do it again this year against Ivory Coast. Hopefully not against Nigeria, or maybe even against Guinea-Bissau. But yes, I think overall, this is a very difficult group, I must say. I think it's a very difficult group. Ivory Coast and Nigeria on paper, are the two strongest sides. But Guinea-Bissau is not a bad team at all. And Equatorial Guinea are giant killers, are a solid side over the last year, So anybody that is not on their A game on any given match day, I think can easily lose or can easily draw a game. They're the opening game for the Super Eagles, so hopefully the Super Eagles come in there with full concentration, full focus. Hopefully Jose Peseiro has prepared well. I don't know how much our scouts are scouting the opposition. I don't know if they have all the data and all the analytics and they've watched video to know how Equatorial Guinea are going to come and play. But hopefully we are able to defeat them and, start with 3 points, because I always say this thing in a tournament, your opening match is so important, because if you lose the first game of the tournament, all of a sudden now there's just this mighty pressure on you going into the next 2 matches, because we all know this: lose 2 matches in tournaments and most of the time you're out. Because there's some third place, you have a chance, but if you lose 2 matches, most of the time you're out. So hopefully we can defeat them in that opening game and then go into the second game against Ivory Coast with at least some confidence, some belief, and not have this utmost pressure that if we don't beat Ivory Coast now, it's as if we're about to crash out of the AFCON. Any final thoughts from you on Equatorial Guinea?
So I just think that they actually underdogs, but they can actually spring surprises. So I think that if there's going to be any surprise, it's going to be the first game. I think they're going to beat Guinea-Bissau, but I think they might have 4 points, either from Nigeria or from Ivory Coast, that will make them qualify. Yes.
Okay. So yeah, that is it. Those are our thoughts on each of the teams in the group. And then now, Smith Layi, let's just talk about what we think is going to happen, in the different matches. So opening game of the whole tournament is Ivory Coast against Guinea-Bissau. What do you think is going to happen in that game?
I think Ivory Coast win.
You think Ivory Coast will win?
Yeah.
Okay. So I also think Ivory Coast will win. So we're putting 3 points on the board for Ivory Coast. Then Nigeria against Equatorial Guinea. First match of our own tournament. What do you think is going to happen?
I think Nigeria will win.
You think Nigeria will win? Okay.
Yes.
I also would say
a very slim win.
Slim win, okay. But I also think Nigeria will win. So 3 points for Ivory Coast, 3 points for Nigeria after match day 1. 0-0 for Equatorial Guinea and Guinea-Bissau. Okay, second match day. Ivory Coast against Nigeria. What do you think is going to happen?
I think a draw.
Yes.
I think a draw.
Okay. Honestly, even me, I have to go for a 1-1 draw. I'm going for a 1-1 draw in that game against Ivory Coast. It's not going to be easy. Ivory Coast is a good team. They have their crowd behind them. They are going to want to show themselves. I'm sure people like Didier Drogba have been talking so much on social media that if possible, Ingo even enter that locker room, go talk to those players, man, like they must beat Nigeria. So I would also go with a draw. Between Equatorial Guinea and Guinea-Bissau, what do you think is going to happen on match day 2?
I think Equatorial Guinea to beat Guinea-Bissau.
Equatorial Guinea to beat Guinea-Bissau. So after match day 2, we have 4 points for Ivory Coast, 4 points for Nigeria, 3 points for Equatorial Guinea, and 0 for Guinea-Bissau.
Yes.
Okay. And then now, going into the final group stage match day, the decisive one, we have Equatorial Guinea versus Ivory Coast, or Ivory Coast versus Equatorial Guinea since they are home. What do you think is going to happen in that one?
A draw.
A draw between Equatorial Guinea and Ivory Coast.
Ivory Coast, yes.
Okay. And Nigeria going up against Guinea-Bissau in our last match of the group. What do you think is going to happen? Nigeria to beat Guinea-Bissau. Okay. Yes. I think for Equatorial Guinea against Ivory Coast, I will go with a win for Ivory Coast. I think Ivory Coast, even though Equatorial Guinea are good, I think Ivory Coast would overcome them. Maybe 1-0, maybe 2-0. And for Nigeria against Guinea-Bissau, I would also go with, maybe a 2-0 win for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. So I think based on my own, it will end up with 7 points for Nigeria. So Nigeria, 7 points. Ivory Coast, 7 points. Guinea-Bissau. What did I say for Guinea-Bissau? I said lose to Ivory Coast, lose to Nigeria, and did I say and beat Equatorial Guinea?
Yes.
So 3 points for Guinea-Bissau, and then Equatorial Guinea. I think I see you going home with nothing.
So for me, it's going to be 7-5 7 for Nigeria, Ivory Coast 5, Guinea Equatoria 4, then the Guinea-Bissau 0.
Guinea-Bissau 0. Wow.
Yes.
Okay, so different. I'm happy that at least we came up to different things.
Different things,
You think
yes.
Guinea-Bissau will go with 0. I think
0 points.
Equatorial Guinea will go with 0. Let
0.
us see who is right or wrong. And for people that are watching and listening to us, feel free. Let us know your own predictions for each of the
Yes.
group games, and for the final table after 3 match days. Who do you think is going to qualify from the group? Who do you think is going to be knocked out? Even though I think Guinea-Bissau will finish third in our group, I am tipping them to qualify as one of the best third place teams. That's also a prediction I want to make. I'm tipping Guinea-Bissau to finish as one of the best third place teams with their 3 points.
Yes.
And, make it for the first time into the knockout round of the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. To round off, Smith Layi, any final words about Group A? Any final thing that you want people to watch out for?
I just want to say that Nigeria always tend to perform in AFCON when it's being hosted in the Western Sahara. So so watch out for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. And if you check the groups too, if you combine all the AFCON they don't win, reach Nigeria AFCON. So it's 2 + 0 + 0. And Nigeria get the highest, the highest actually was the AFCON in that group. So, and I just hope and I think the Super Eagles will bring their A game and actually will perform well. I think it might be wumbling and fumbling, but I think
they will get to the result eventually.
They will get the result, yes. Yes, they will get the result.
Okay. Amazing,
Yes.
amazing. Thank you very much, guys, for engaging with us. Thank you for listening. That has been our Group A preview of AFCON 2023. Check out the next video. It will come shortly after this. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Send the video, send the podcast link to your brother, to your sister. Anybody that that is African that cares about this AFCON, make sure they are tuned into the podcast because we are going to be bringing you content back to back throughout the AFCON. Of course, we're also going to have a correspondent in Ivory Coast giving us live content, giving us news, gists, everything as they hot, back to back. So make sure you are following EaglesTracker on social media, Facebook, Twitter, X, TikTok, Instagram, wherever you follow your updates, whichever social media you use, will be on there giving you content. And of course, on YouTube as well, we'll be bringing you quality videos that we get. As always, I have been AyoT and my co-host,
Smith Layi.
Yes, thank you very much, guys. Bye-bye.
Yes.